As you see the topic, and I saw the delegation before the lunch, we spoke about how the citizens are expecting more. So what you will see in my presentation is, if you start living 5 or 10 years ahead, what are the kind of challenges you'll find, and what are the ways in which you could uh, probably respond to those challenges. So if you look and think why we are here and why this concept of smart cities and what it does, it basically engages or lets the government engage with the citizens better for a better experience. It empowers the people, whether they're citizens or whether it is the government officials who there to serve the citizens. So that's what it helps you in achieving faster at a much lower cost, and thus by making the living of the citizens easy, friendly, in a way more compassionate, they're able to move around easily, and so on. The list is long. Now, the challenge is when you're using technology to do so many things, what are the risks in doing that? And that's what I'll discuss with you. And it starts by imagining, and let me say, all of us using WhatsApp, right? Yes, regardless of the age. Now, what if I ask one of you to give me your mobile phone for 30 minutes? And half of the folks are, oh, I can't, right? Now, your phone has so many things to tell me about you. I'm not even going to phone call logs. I'm saying just the WhatsApp, the number of people you converse with, what kind of replies you give, and I'm not still entering into the browser data, I'm still not entering the time data, I'm still not entering the call data. Forget me listening to what you're talking. I'm still not going there. Just WhatsApp. Now, if a WhatsApp can tell me so much about you, what if I come and meet your family members and say, hey, you know what? I want WhatsApp of all the family members. I can practically tell you whether the son is listening to the mother, or the differences between or within the family, or even within the larger the family members, right? Now, if that intelligence can be quickly learned from a phone, imagine if you're doing all these government services which are well connected. I know for a sure that how many people have X type of illness and what's the kind of medicine I need to prescribe to them. So I know what's the shop or a chemist nearest to them, and I also know what's the kind of an offering I need to make so that they buy from this place. Now, these are things which come to a mind which works differently, because one is a mind where you focus on constructive things of technology. Second is how can I misuse it and what all can happen there. So that's what we'll focus in my session, as to what are the downside and what are the things to be prevented when things get automated. So if you look, this presents a cycle, of a journey that you can take when you're entering into a smart city. Whether we talk about a lift, now we use lift elevators every day, and I think in the previous sessions you heard about smart buildings, right? Let's take an example of a smart lift. I still recollect around 8 to 10 years back, I first visited the Bombay Stock Exchange, the famous one, and I went to the corridors on the lift, and you just had to press the floor which you have to go to, and then a monitor on that pressing button will tell you should you go to lift A, B, C. I mean, that was a concept so that the energy gets conserved, right? Now, the next level of that automation is where the lift recognizes you as a person. So it sees you every day. It can connect back to the employer database. So if you're working in company X or Y or Z, the lift will recognize you, and it knows that your office is on X floor, let's say 20th floor. So as you enter the lift, you don't have to tell the lift, I have to go to 20th floor. Now that's just one part of let's say a smart building. Now what if that lift software becomes biased towards you, and when you are entering, it's not even opening the door? What do you do then? Or you want to go to the 20th floor, but it goes at the most slow speed, sensing that you're in urgency, or puts you out on 24th floor. which is access to terrace and nothing else. And as you go into automation, you don't have human beings there to guard or to operate. So where do you go and log so-called a call? And if you do call equivalent of whatever number 100, 122, what do you tell them? My smart city lift is not working or what? Right? So those are kinds of things you enter into when the era is of an automation. So if you look, why we started smart cities was dominantly to engage with citizens, or let's say empower city employees, which includes the citizens, and then optimize the infrastructure. Like in last few days, you might have heard of news where the Google Maps would know the traffic data. So what I read in the paper was that the Gurgaon police, while on one hand Google knows which roads are clogged, they'll also have, let's say, 500 or 600 kind of groups of traffic police teams, and they would be tagged. So if traffic team X is near to a clogged road, automatically a dispatch would be sent, right? Now what if somebody overrides the system and the traffic team is either sent to a wrong area or the system never shows that the roads are clogged while you're banking completely on that system to work? So if you look from engaging citizen perspective, the architecture, what can be done, the transportation system which are automatic, the traffic which is automated, a lot can be done. But again, my focus, what I'll do is, other than the architecture, where if you see here, a lot of e-services are offered, you know. And e-services could include application of license, could include a birth certificate issuance, could include a death certificates and other and so on, and how that could be misused in context of cybersecurity. So we discussed about WhatsApp, where we were talking of data privacy of a person, then of a family. Now imagine if I could have access to the entire data of the city and know what's getting planned by whom when. So that invades into data privacy. So to what level should we allow the systems or the enforcement director or the police to have that access is still questionable. Okay. The second thing is with respect to, let's say, a budgeting value. Now all of us in last maybe 3 to 6 months, we've been hearing about leakages of the financial data. Now if you again look at a smart city or a place where most of the data is electronic, from a cybersecurity perspective, whatever you're preparing, let's say a bridge has to be made or construction has to be done, that entire data of the budget lines of the prospective vendor who we have to give the contract to lies today in a digital format. What if that could be accessed seamlessly by anyone, whether it's an Office file or a PDF file? It presents a different type of a risk as the banking on all the data goes electronic. Again, citizen services error. If you see a lot of insurance company, you could claim X amount if you meet with an X accident. You have term insurance, you have life insurance. What you need to do is to get a certificate of a particular person who's insured, who's now declared dead in the books of government. And what if that system could be overridden? You actually could claim the complete insurance amount of X lakhs to X crore rupees while that citizen still lives on. So there are different types of, I would say, frauds that could emit as you digitize your services and get into a so-called smart city. But then the challenge is also with respect to the DDoS, or you expected that you'll file for, let's say, a passport, you expected you'll file for, let's say, driver license, but the system doesn't behave as expected. So which means you as a citizen then start either highlighting, stroke abusing on a social network here the government services sucks. Now, which is again a part of the smart city services. And the most important thing is, where do you draw the line that the software can learn from you and then take some corrective actions? And I'll give an example. Gradually in smart cities again will be where the the system would know your race, the system would know your religion, the system would know a lot of things about you, and then based on that, the workflows are made in the smart city. What if they don't behave as expected? In context of, let's say, the AI and robots, uh, and let's before we go to robots doing something different, let's go to a normal use case where you're going for your morning walk, and you have a ferocious dog and the owner, and suddenly the dog is out of his the owner clutches, comes and bites you. Now, what action would you take legally, by the way? Can you go and kill the dog? I don't know. Now, who gets behind the bars? Would the dog go behind the bar? I don't know. What's the fault? He's an animal, let's say. Now, if a case gets created in this format, who's liable? I guess to my knowledge, it's the owner of the dog. Okay, fair enough. Now, what if the dog is a e-dog? In parallels to smart cities, what if those systems are autonomous and they do something wrong? Now, whose liability is that? Is it the service provider liability? Because the smart cities would be built with different service providers, with different system integrators, with different cloud providers. And if that autonomous system doesn't behave as expected, causing a loss to the citizen, then what's the remedy on both the legal as well as action side? So those are some of the concerns which come in when you get into building automated and smart cities. Now, while some of that was with respect to the citizen services, the similar architecture and behavior, if you see, could be with respect to the smart buildings. Uh, and again, quickly glancing through the architecture, again, the privacy aspects of who's coming in the building, who's not coming in the building, the facial recognition, the background, should they be allowed, not allowed. And again, coming to the smart metering, we all talk about smart metering. Now, how many of you have driven or maybe paid electricity bill? A lot of you, right? So, simple question, how many of you trust the electricity meter at your home, specifically in summers? There are millions of complaints which go and say, I think my bill is more, I think my meter isn't proper. Forget the electricity meter. You go and sit in a taxi. Forget the Ubers and the Olas of the world. Just go back and sit in an auto rickshaw or some other taxi. How many times do you actually trust the meter? And you would have recognized the same distance traveled on different dates with different taxi providers gives you different rates. Now, and we're talking of everything smart now. So the challenge would be, how do I trust that piece of hardware which is doing that billing? So which is part of the e-services that that would come out as part of the large smart cities which will get created. And again, coming to the operations. With respect to the citizen services that would be offered under the smart cities. Again, the threats, or the biggest of the threats, would be the data privacy concerns. And in my view, the maximum impact could be in the health sector, where the concerns could be what kind of data about patients who are coming in this so-called smart hospital, which identifies you with your Aadhaar. As you move on, it has the database of all your illness. It also has access to your records or health records kept in different hospitals. And then it gives you so-called e-checkout facilities. And I'm sure as we progress in next 5 to 10 years, all these things would become a reality in different government as well as private hospitals. So as you do that, e-checkout and the bill is automatically paid by your insurance company, all that data is actually getting traversed through all those providers. What if it gets leaked somewhere in between to a middleman? And I see a lot of that today happening. Why would a chemist call you and say, I'm offering X% discount on medicines for your illness only, which means he knows that you have that illness. Now, where this data came from? And a similar thing is, if a lot of you are, if you're in stock broking or some other stock market, you'll suddenly find you go and sign up for a new broker, and there are 5 people calling you if you want some market reports. Now, how do they get to know that you are playing in this market? So all of that is part of the, I would say, etization of services without proper information protection. Again, coming to traffic errors, again, we today rely on Google. I'll give you a reality check today for this hotel itself. If you go to your Google Maps and say Lalit Hotel, and you can do that right now if you're sitting, open your Google Maps, say Lalit Hotel, it actually opens a Lalit Hotel with the correct address, but it takes you to somewhere near Lodi Road, by the way, unless you type the Lalit Hotel. Now that's an error, right? But who taps it? Now if similar errors are aggregated, it prevents a different option. So those are the nuisances when you get into the kind of concept where traffic would be managed, it would be inputted by user, managed by the user. So a lot of those things would come into play. Again, from a AQI reading errors. So I had a dealer, not in this city, I don't want to go into details. So what we thought of the case that was getting built was that in that particular city, the pollution values which were shown to the public weren't as correct. And that was done on behest of a lobby so that more air purifier can be sold. Right? So there are tons of things that emerge out of the trending data that we get and the use cases that we read with respect to the e-cities and the related hacking or cybersecurity challenges which are there. So what will happen as a result of these things is the trust in the governments, if the E part isn't safe, isn't as expected, isn't behaving as you should expect it to be, the trust on those services would diminish, gradually making it a point. It is a smart city, but the users aren't trusting it as much to the expectation, which results again into a lower efficiency of what you thought of, which is again, serving the citizens well and preparing them well, or lowering the cost of your governance. So with that, I'll end my presentation. In summary, your smart city is a great concept. It has its own downside, which as creator of smart cities, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room would be party to creation of different e-services and smart city services, would have to take into cognizance other than data protection, DDoS, things also like ethical AI, as well as the legal implications of not delivering that service in a smart city environment to an expectation. Thanks guys, thanks so much.